We're talking today with my friend Craig Childs, who I describe as a extreme traveler and nature mystic. He resists these terms, but when a guy is one of the first to raft down a high, rapid river in Tibet and also has crossed on foot the largest expanse of bare desert in North America, I think he deserves those titles, especially when he reaches epiphanies and communicates them to others in his writings, which he does so well. So I'm sticking with it. Nature mystic, extreme traveler, and fine writer of many books and articles. Craig Childs, welcome.
Thank you, Angus Stocking, tarot reader and hypnotist and impresario. Can I use those words describing you?
Well, I've set the tone, so yes, you can. Today, we'd like to talk in advance of an event that we're doing this month called Cat Man. New stories of Craig Childs and his encounters with lions all over the globe, really. And as a teaser, Craig, I'm hoping we can talk today about a story of yours from South America when you unknowingly encountered a jaguar, I think, and maybe set that up for us. Where was this, and what was the situation?
Yeah, and actually it was in northern Mexico in the Sierra Madre, but south, and
South of
and
us.
this was years back, south of us. Um, one of the more unusual encounters I've had with a large predator because in fact I didn't really have an encounter. I wouldn't have known it was happening if somebody else hadn't been watching from a distance. We were back deep in the Sierra Madre in the Chihuahuan side, state of Chihuahua, and we had been backpacking for several days. So we were off trail, way back into canyons. We were in there looking at cliff dwellings, these ancient sites, multi-story masonry structures back in the caves. So we were kind of splitting up in the canyons and seeing what we could find. And this happened on a day where a friend of mine had split up for probably a couple hours, and I thought he was long gone and I wouldn't see him at camp until I got to camp. And as I was going through heavy brush, I heard him up ahead of me, and I couldn't see him, but I could hear him kind of crashing through the brush. So I got quiet and decided that I was going to stalk him because that's what friends do, right?
And
We
Craig, if
stalk
I
each
could
other.
break in,
Yeah.
would you've told this story before? I've gotten the impression that it was jungle-like, but you say heavy
Uh,
brush. What was the actual terrain that you were stalking your friend in?
yeah, this is subtropical alpine, so big oak, big deciduous trees, a lot of underbrush. So you're going through heavy brush using animal trails and brush that's well over your head. So you can only see maybe 10 or 15 feet at the most. And even that is hard to see through. So you're looking through a net of leaves and branches. And
Thank you.
let's see, yeah, feel free to ask for any details. I decided to stalk him because I wanted to get up close enough that he wouldn't know I was there, and then I would run and jump on him and terrify him. Because again, that's what we do. And I got closer and closer, and I was kind of getting in pounce position. I was thinking, okay, I'm close enough that he's going to hear me if I take another few steps. So I just need to burst at him. And right about that time, I heard him shouting at me from quite some distance away, far above me in the canyon. And we were kind of not down in the canyon floor, but on a mid-level bench, so halfway down a canyon that's maybe 1,000 feet deep or 700 feet deep. And he shouted because he could see me down below, and he had encountered what he was shouting out was the biggest rattlesnake he'd ever seen in his life, and he was really animated. And of course, I'm just stopping and going, wait a minute, if that's not him out in front of me, who is that? And so I shouted back up to him, what cool big rattlesnake, look down here and do you see anything around me? And and he yelled back that he could see a jaguar. And this is an area where, I wouldn't say jaguars are abundant, but we've been finding kills, and they're around. And the sound of the animal moving just stopped. And I imagine what happened is the jaguar heard me coming up behind it and was, just puzzled or waiting to see what I was going to do. But, clearly the animal knew I was there. And then once it went silent, I had no idea where it was. So,
Craig,
for
can
the
I just
next,
break in?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just one moment. When we've told this story before, when I've heard you tell it, as I recall, and maybe I'm wrong, it wasn't that your friend told you he saw a jaguar, but that you kind of ran through mentally the possibilities for what it could be and decided it could only be
yeah.
a jaguar. Is that, do I have that wrong, or it seems important?
Well,
I'm just curious.
yeah, this is how stories start to change because I actually, now that you mention it, I know that eventually he did see that there was a big cat, and he was able to distinguish that it was a jaguar, not a mountain lion. Right in that moment, maybe that's what happened. Is that I thought about what I was following, which was not a bear. That would have sounded really different, and nothing smaller. So I imagine somewhere in between him telling me and me just piecing it together, I knew what it was. I don't know if I would have known it was a jaguar necessarily because there are mountain lions in that area too. So some point along the way, maybe he got a better view of it because it ended up going around me, like going, I believe, down slope because he was shouting out and telling me where it was, and I was kind of spinning around and not sure what to be ready for. I mean, in hindsight, I don't think I was in danger, but I like to think that. And
But on the
and
other hand,
I had no
you
idea.
this revelation of your friend's actual location happened, as you tell it, moments before you were deciding to burst upon this
Oh
predator.
yeah, yeah, and like imagine what that would have looked like. I mean, I'm sure I would have startled the jaguar with what I was doing, and I might have even scared it off. It might have gone, I don't want to have anything to do with whatever this thing is. But I think I would have startled it, and it would have looked at me and quickly assessed that I was fumbling and nervous and scared and uncoordinated, and I'm sure edible.
Yeah, and equally, he might have, he or she, the big cat, might well have decided, well, I'll just casually dispatch this new threat
Yeah,
and move on.
yeah, and I would have been
um,
a threat. It's true. It might have had to defend itself against me, which wouldn't
what
have been pretty.
what sticks with me after, I think I first heard this 13, 14 years ago, and what I've always, it struck me then and now as almost like a Nasruddin story, the Sufi mystic clown, we could call him, who,
Say more.
well, he's a figure in a Sufi legend who's comes across as kind of a dimwit. He does strange things for strange reasons. He comes across as a fool, but it becomes in the morals and the teachings of the stories. He's a holy fool that he has, by design or accident or divine intervention, if you will, finds themselves in peculiar situations. And just the whole idea of deciding to stalk your friend
Yeah,
and thereby stalking and sneaking up on and deciding to pounce on a potential great life changing or ending danger, it there seems to be elements of divinity, synchronicity, arrangement, possible epiphany. It's one of the reasons I've thought of you as essentially a mystic of the Southwest. What I guess just to wrap it up,
Yeah,
what have you gone? Where have you written about this? As you've told the story, as you've mulled on it over the years, what
yeah,
lesson do you derive, or what insight was integrated for you?
yeah. This story appeared in my book Animal Dialogues, and that's where the accurate details are because that was written in proximity. I mean, came out of my journal. And as far as what kind of epiphany or resolution or something to take from this, you're right about the fool part of it because that's me. I can do foolish things because maybe they seem odd, but it makes sense. Talk after a friend, we would both enjoy the experience and talk about it a lot, and talk about how our perceptions are raised and lowered while we're out, and what we get and what we miss. So I actually think this foolish behavior sometimes can, in the moment, it doesn't seem foolish to me. In the moment, it seems like, oh, this is the right thing to do. But then I do take away the knowledge. I kind of back up and go, well, how foolish should you be? Because in that situation, like you said, yeah, I could have been killed. And and maybe it's just this fine balance of knowing, of just feeling innately the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. And I think it's a thin line between being a hero and a fool. I think overall, it just tells me to put my antenna up much higher, that I can be blithely walking through the world and oblivious to what's going on around me. And every encounter like this is a reminder to, there's a lot more going on out here than I actually see. And if I could if I could turn up my senses and actually see it, then I would understand the world more. Then I wouldn't get eaten, which at that moment I didn't. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Oh, that's more than I expected. Thank you for the wonderful insight. One more question occurs to me. Did you have the feeling that when you learned about that it wasn't your friend up there, that it was something else? Do you have the impression that at that moment the Jaguar too learned about you?
Yeah, the Jaguar, I would say it knew before my friend shouted. The Jaguar knew that I didn't know what was going on, or at least it was very different after my friend shouted, because the Jaguar then, I think, in whatever way a big cat would, pieced it together, because the cat would have heard me stop and then heard my voice for the first time reacting to my friend. And at that point, the Jaguar knew everything about the situation, knew that I was caught by surprise, that I wasn't intending on finding a cat. And yeah, now it had all the information it needed.
In my hearing of this story and trying to piggyback, if you will, and attain my own divine insight or mystic revelation, it seems to me to strongly resemble the pursuit of God or a divine experience, that we reach out, travel by meditation or extreme experience or study, trying to have an experience of something that doesn't even know necessarily that we're trying, until a moment comes when we learn just what we are pursuing, and what we are pursuing learns of us. And there's a mutual recognition there that is the an echo of the unity experience, where we briefly become one with the divine and all the world, and it's worth a lifetime of effort to achieve.
Yeah,
Is that too much,
that's
or
no, that I think that's a great way of putting it, because even though I go into it kind of fumbling and foolishly, I come away with this sense of much bigger connection than I had before. That I, in a way, touched something that is beyond me, and maybe the Jaguar did too. We had a relationship for a moment, even though it wasn't, even though I never saw it. We had a way of exchanging with each other that goes beyond normal human relationships.
so in the material we sometimes encounter the divine?
Exactly.
Craig, thank you for sharing this story with us again and recording it.
Yeah.
And for listeners to this teaser on March 30th, Thursday, 2023 in Paonia, Colorado. Craig will be telling many stories of lions, new ones from the last several years as he works on a book on the topic. And that will be 6:30, Blue Sage, Paonia, March 30th, a Thursday. And tickets are available online at SimpleTix. If you go to Blue Sage, I believe you will find a link to the ticket site, $15. And it should be a great evening with many more divine revelations, if you will. Thank you,
and
Craig
and
Childs.
you will be in it as well, Angus. You will be
I,
co-hosting this with me.
I will be your host and interlocutor at times, and hope I can add a bit. But you're the talent, and we are all looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you, Angus.